2020 was a difficult year for everyone, from the wildfires in California to the death of George Floyd. It was hard to feel optimistic. By far, the most challenging issue was the spread of COVID-19. This virus sparked a global pandemic that was enough to shut down America's economy and workforce. Not only were thousands catching the virus, many others started to suffer with their own health issues that stemmed from the isolation of quarantining. Today, America is still recovering from the lasting physical and mental impacts of COVID-19. Although we will not return to a new normal for quite some time, there are ways to cope with the lasting effects from the pandemic. In fact, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention did a study displaying the percentage of Americans experiencing symptoms of depression and anxiety after living through the nightmare of a pandemic. From the months of January to June of 2019, 11% of U.S. adults claimed to have symptoms of anxiety and/or depression. By December 2020, 42% of U.S. adults reported symptoms of anxiety and/or depression. This is a drastic increase because that 11% nearly tripled with a 31% increase in the matter of 6 to 12 months. COVID-19 not only led to a physical health crisis, but also a mental health crisis. Even though many of us are doing our part in staying away from others, it has not been easy. Going from having an active and social lifestyle, whether that be at school or at a job, to a lifestyle of only leaving out of necessity has been difficult. Communication has transformed from being both online and in person to almost exclusively online. Despite how adept we are at talking online to millions of people, it is another reminder that while we can chat with someone across the world, we are still alone at home. The CDC article lists simple ways to cope with that loneliness. Focus on keeping your body healthy, continue to talk to everyone you can at home or online, engage in hobbies, and avoid too much consumption of the news online, on TV, or in the papers. It is interesting that the CDC recommends that those struggling with mental health to step away from the news, but this is supported by other articles as well. The National Institute of Mental Health also reiterates this point through an infographic. They state, "Take breaks from the news and focus on the facts." The amount of misinformation spread about COVID-19 and the constant coverage about it on the news may contribute to stress and anxiety in some people.
One of the most common myths, honestly, is that, and issues I've seen in the student population, is that I've already had COVID, so I don't need to go and get the vaccine. So unfortunately, we don't know enough about COVID to substantiate that that won't be an issue. Because just like any other viruses, and this is considered as one of the adenoviruses and similar to the flu, it's constantly evolving. And so it's potentially possible that it's already mutated multiple times and there's different strains out there. And so the current vaccine, ergo maybe in the future, a year from now, if this is still our life, might actually have to have more strains in it, just like the flu shot does. And so it is necessary to get the COVID vaccine for protective purposes. But the other component that's a myth is that if I've already had COVID, I won't get it again. Another issue is, like I had mentioned, with the strains, that can't be possibly true, 100% at least. And then as far as other myths go, some of the more common ones, especially with women's health, is that they are concerned that if they have COVID, even during the early stages of pregnancy, that it will cause pregnancy issues or eventually cause demise of their child in utero. And so far, research hasn't shown that that actually has caused any issues. And honestly, there's been recent research that shows that increased estrogen levels have actually been a protective factor. And women that are having menses actually might be more protected from the dire effects of COVID, to the point where they're actually even doing research right now and giving estrogen, like hormone therapy, to men to see if it will help, significantly decrease their signs and symptoms and their mortality, because men are unfortunately more likely to die from COVID.
I work with people that are willing to come in and talk with me or talk with all of our counselors. So that's a significant, that's a good piece of information. Those folks are engaged and they're willing to come in and or we provide Zoom teletherapy also. So they're engaged. Those folks we stay in contact with. It's people that are afraid to leave the house or have a concern that they might be, there's still a stigma with mental health. So my counsel would be, please reach out to someone. Certainly to a medical doctor can help if you're concerned about going to see a counselor. And the medical doctor can say, maybe it's a good idea for you to see a counselor, which, by the way, we've seen an increase in doctors sending people, saying, really, there's nothing else I can do, but you might want to talk to someone. So my counsel is always reach out to a friend, a family member that you trust, and make sure that if you're at a place where you feel like you're really reaching crisis, that you contact someone in the community that can help. Naturally, friends and family, if you have a good support system, that's going to help. So that's the main thing, is to reach out. And then to also, if you know about social media, there's a way to sort of go in and grab the most recent kinds of tools that can help with therapy, something like deep breathing, something like listening to your favorite song. How about going for a walk? So there's ways that people can start feeling better, but the main thing is to get connected, somehow get connected to someone so you can speak what you need and then someone can help guide you to counseling.
Although coping mechanisms are helpful and/or essential to many who struggle with mental health problems, it is important to note that it does not replace medical treatment from a professional. It is important to reach out to a mental health professional such as a doctor or therapist when struggling with mental health symptoms or having suicidal thoughts. There are many treatments available. When you speak to a professional, they will be able to find the best option for each individual person. Dr. Fasharaki Zada, a Yale Medicine neuropsychiatrist, states that it is important to address emotions that could be mental health related, or it could lead to a potential long-term problem such as post-traumatic stress disorder. If you are having thoughts of harming yourself, do not hesitate to reach out to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is an organization that provides free and confidential emotional support to people in suicidal crisis or emotional distress, 24 hours a day and 7 days a week.